What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat, and today I want to give a bit of an early prediction for the main card of UFC 319, headlined by Dricus still knocks Du-Plessis, the middleweight champion, and the challenger Khamzat Boars Chimaev. Man, I cannot wait for this fight. But then you got the co-main, Lerone Murphy, welcoming Pico to the UFC. But then also on the feature fight, we got Geoff, Hands of Steel Neal versus Carlos the Nightmare Prates rescheduled. Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page. And to kick off the main card, we got Elliot versus Kai Asakura. Just an all-out stacked night of fights. And I'm going to start with Elliot versus Kai Asakura. So Elliot, we have not seen him fight since late 2023. He has not been active. He's making a comeback after a long layoff, whereas we've seen more of Kai Asakura, and he's coming off his not-so-successful UFC debut against the flyweight champion Alexandre Pantoja, where he got submitted in the second round, but he did show some potential in that fight. He was able to land some good shots. He was throwing down with the champ, but eventually Pantoja did what Pantoja does best. He got the back, he wrapped up that neck, and it was all she wrote. But Elliot is no Alexandre Pantoja, and Elliot, he is an aging veteran. Now, you can't count him out. He is very, very tough, and he's very experienced, and he's a very hard guy to finish, and he's got very good grappling. But Kai Asakura, he did show some decent takedown defense in that fight against Pantoja. But even if you have good takedown defense, Pantoja will just climb the back regardless. I don't think Elliott's wrestling offense is as good as Pantoja's. I don't think his pressure is as good. Doesn't have Pantoja's power. And I think Kai Asakura is a way better striker than Elliot. Very explosive, way faster, way more powerful. Good jump knees, good kicks, very good boxing as well. And he trains with the bantamweight champion Merab Dvalishvili, who is a pressure fighter and a wrestler, and he's very suffocating. So I think given that experience that he got in his UFC debut, training with Merab, getting those UFC jitters out of the way, I'm going to go with Kai Asakura to win this fight. I'm not overly confident. I do think Tim could win, but he's just not getting any younger. I think he might be a little bit past it. Now, who knows? Unk could show that he's got it. But I think Kai Asakura knows that he cannot afford to lose his UFC debut. So I'm going to go with Kai Asakura. Or sorry, not his UFC debut, his second UFC fight. So I got Kai going 1-1 in the UFC and making the top 10 of the rankings in the flyweight division. Now moving up the card, Jared the Killer Gorilla Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page. This is a dangerous fight for both men, and I think this is a bigger test for Michael Venom Page than his last opponent at middleweight, Shara Bullet, because Jared Cannonier has a lot of power, more power than Shara Bullet, more of a threat of knocking out Michael Venom Page than Shara did. Jared Cannonier also has very dangerous crippling leg kicks, and MVP does have a wide stance, and Jared Cannonier, he's got good clinch strength, he can dirty box you, he's got good body shots. All of that combined does make him dangerous for Michael Venom Page. Those tools might be what he needs to beat Michael Venom Page. But on the flip side, Michael Venom Page is a much better striker than Jared Cannonier. He's got a reach advantage. He's taller, better footwork, very good defense, hard to hit clean, very elusive, and he is a very good trap setter, and he's a very dangerous counter striker. And Jared Cannonier, historically speaking, does struggle with really good strikers. Like when he fought Robert Whittaker, he got picked apart, got his game shut down, struggled with the footwork, the speed, the volume of Robert Whittaker. And it was the same thing when he fought Israel Adesanya. He struggled with the elusiveness, the range, the height, the distance management, the leg kicks, the combinations, everything. And he wasn't able to get off his best offense. He got his offense shut down by both, and both were able to pick him apart. And I do think that against Michael Venom Page, he is going to run into the exact same problem. He could catch MVP with a big shot, but I feel like it is very unlikely. He's going to really need to consistently be able to hold Michael Venom Page against the fence, stall him out, rip to the body to wear him down, and take a wrestling heavy approach. Because Ian Gary did it, it worked. Whenever fighters mix it up against MVP, he does kind of struggle. And I do think that is how Jared could win this fight. But on the feet, I just think he's going to fall behind. He's going to struggle getting down MVP's timing. MVP is way too fast. His blitzes are too quick. I don't think Jared's going to be able to counter him as he's coming in. MVP is very good at blitzing in with that straight punch, whether it's a left or right. He can switch stances or an elbow and then getting out of the pocket. I don't think Jared is going to be able to hold him in the pocket. And I don't know if I can trust Jared Cannonier to take a wrestling heavy approach. Jared Cannonier is a striker at heart. And I could just see him going out there trying to figure out the striking of Michael Venom Page and just getting lost in there with Michael Venom Page. And an approach I could see Jared taking is a similar one to Douglas Lima in that first fight, where Lima just kind of sat back, kept a tight high guard, and would time like these leg kicks as Michael Page would blitz. But I don't think that strategy is going to work. MVP, he's learned from that loss to Douglas Lima. He went on to beat him in the rematch. He's not going to make that same mistake, and I highly doubt that Jared's going to be able to catch him slipping the same way. So I'm going to pick Michael Venom Page to win by a unanimous decision. I don't think Jared is going to pressure him enough the way he needs to. I could just see him being timid and kind of just sitting back and waiting too much. That's what Jared has a bad habit of doing, is sitting back, waiting, doesn't pressure a lot. He kind of likes to counter, but then when he does press the action, he does leave himself open to getting countered. So I'm going to say MVP is just going to style on Jared Cannonier. I think Jared will have a few moments where he blitzes MVP and then clinches him, gets him against the cage, tries to dirty box, but I feel like those moments are going to be too far in between. It's going to be mainly MVP being able to stay off the cage, stay on the feet, and just win a striking match. And Jared not taking enough chances to where he doesn't get finished, but he's not going to be able to outpoint Michael Page. So Michael Page is my pick, and I think he's going to get his second win in the middleweight division and his third overall UFC win. All right, now moving on to the welterweight bout, the feature fight between Geoff Hands of Steel Neal versus Carlos the Nightmare Prates. Rescheduled from when they were supposed to fight last in April. Geoff Neal pulled out with an injury, so Carlos Prates went on to fight Ian Machado Gary in a main event where he was tested and he did lose, but he got to gain experience from that fight, and he got to go 5 rounds in the UFC for the first time ever and showed to still be dangerous deep into the 5th round, because he won that 5th round against Ian Gary and had him in danger. But Geoff Neal is a different style, a different body type from a guy like Ian Gary. Ian Gary is long, rangy, elusive, doesn't really fight in punching range like that. He likes to kind of keep you at kicking range. Whereas Geoff Neal is a very good boxer with a very good blitz. He's very fast, very good in the clinch as well, very good dirty boxing. He's very good pocket boxer, right? With very good combinations. He's not a defensive striker like an Ian Gary. But for as good as Geoff Neal is in that aspect. I kind of feel like with how he strikes, that almost plays into Carlos Prates' game, because Carlos Prates, he needs an opponent that is going to come at him. That's going to be a lot easier to hit. And I'm not saying Geoff isn't dangerous. Geoff's power is a threat to Prates, but I think Prates' power is an even bigger threat to Geoff Neal. And I think all around, he is a better, more dangerous striker than Geoff. With more tools, I think he's got a better, wider shot selection, way better combinations. I think he's better inside the pocket. He's better with his kicks, leg, body, and then head as well. Good knees. He can throw flying knees, land them clean. And his knees from the clinch are very dangerous. I could see him tying up Geoff Neal in the clinch, beating him up with the knees to the body, maybe landing a knee to the head. I think all around, I just think Prates is a bad matchup for Geoff Neal, and I think Geoff Neal is a better matchup for Prates than Ian Garry was, and the shots that Prates struggled to land on Ian Garry, I think he's going to be able to catch Geoff Neal with those shots, and I think he's going to be able to get the finish on Geoff Neal. I'm going to say he's going to finish him in the second round. I think early on, Prates will struggle with the speed, the footwork, the blitzes of Geoff Neal. But I think Prates is going to stay patient, chop at the calves, work the calves of Geoff Neal, and just rip him with punches to the body, which I think will wear on Geoff Neal, headed into round 2. And I think the more Geoff slows down, it's going to be a lot safer to walk him down, a lot safer to pressure him. And then by that point, I think Prates is going to be able to put Geoff Neal away. So I got Prates round 2, late round 2 knockout. I think Carlos Prates is going to come in this fight with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove coming off that loss to Ian Garry. And he's going to be very motivated to bounce back. And usually Geoff Neal, for as dangerous as he is, he usually loses to these prospects, like when he fought Ian Garry and Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I just think it's going to be no different in this fight. Okay, now moving on to the co-main event in the featherweight division, Lerone the Miracle Murphy versus Aaron Pico. Aaron Pico making his UFC debut. He was originally supposed to fight Movsar Evloev, but honestly, the fact that Evloev pulled out might be a blessing in disguise for Pico, because now he's faced with a striker instead, not this really tough, grindy, relentless wrestler that he was originally supposed to fight. I thought Movsar was a horrible matchup for Pico, and I thought Movsar was going to win that fight. And actually, in this matchup, Pico is the one now who has the wrestling advantage. He's going in there against a striker like Lerone Murphy, where he doesn't have to worry about takedowns, but he has that option of implementing his own wrestling offense. But Pico also has very dangerous hands, very good boxing, very dangerous inside the pocket, and he hits very hard. You do not want to get hit clean by this guy, and Lerone definitely does not want to let this guy get in close. Aaron Pico is a multi-dimensional threat to Lerone Murphy. However, even though this is not as horrible of a matchup as Evloev was, I still think Lerone in his own right is a hard fight for Pico. More UFC experience, he's undefeated. I think he's a better striker than Aaron Pico is. And he's got very sound defense on the feet, very tricky to hit clean, very good distance management, and he's very good at just shutting down, neutralizing your offense while being able to work his own offense. And he has very good takedown defense. He also went 5 rounds with a dangerous fighter in Josh Emmett, who has a similar style to Pico. I think he's more dangerous than Pico, and Emmett was not once able to land clean or drop Lerone. Now, I will say, Dan Ige was able to clip and hurt Murphy. Murphy did get caught slipping against Ige. So I'm not saying Pico cannot catch him, but I think he learned from that Ige fight. I think maybe he got a little bit overconfident, but when he was worried about the power of Emmett, he was able to neutralize that power. Be that better striker. Pick him apart. He gave up a few takedowns, but he defended more takedowns than he surrendered to Josh Emmett. And I think if Pico struggles to get this fight to the ground, I do think he's going to struggle on the feet unless he catches Lerone Murphy. So I want Pico to win this fight. I want him to win his UFC debut, and I do think this is a way more winnable fight. But I'm going to go with Lerone Murphy to beat Aaron Pico. I think he's going to win this fight by a decision. I just think that he's going to frustrate Pico in the striking. He's going to be able to avoid those bombs and defend takedowns. He might get taken down once or twice, but I don't think Pico is going to be able to hold him down. And Pico has to nuke this guy if it stays standing. And if he doesn't, he's going to fall behind on points. But I do think Pico is going to do well. I do think it's going to be a competitive fight, but I just think that he's going to lose his UFC debut, kind of like what happened to Patricio Pitbull, and maybe he'll bounce back from here in his second UFC fight. But I think Lerone Murphy is going to remain undefeated. All right, now headed into the main event of the evening. Dricus still knocks Du-Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev, middleweight title on the line. This is Dricus Du-Plessis. I believe this is like his fourth title fight, and this is his third chance to defend his belt. He's defended his belt twice, once against Izzy, the second time against Sean Strickland in the rematch, and this is Khamzat Chimaev's first ever fight for UFC Gold after 5 years with the promotion. This is the battle between an unstoppable force, Khamzat Chimaev, and an immovable object in Dricus Du-Plessis. Both guys are undefeated in the UFC, but something here has got to give, and someone is going to lose. And I think both these guys are actually each other's toughest matchups, which makes this fight super interesting. I think Khamzat is the biggest career test for Dricus Du-Plessis, but I think Dricus is also the biggest career test for Khamzat Chimaev. Like, this fight is a literal clash of the Titans, okay? Both guys are absolute juggernauts, physical tanks. Both men are very physically strong. Both men have a lot of power. Both guys are very tough, very durable. Dricus Du-Plessis' striking is like a little more unorthodox and quirky, but it's effective. But then Khamzat Chimaev, he's no slouch on the feet either. He's got very good boxing fundamentals. He's got a very good jab, straight cross. Both men on a technical aspect are good on the feet, but then both guys can also throw down. Both guys can bang, but I think what sets these two apart, what separates Khamzat from Dricus, is he has such a clear wrestling advantage. He is a dominant wrestler / grappler, and he's so dangerous in that opening round. He starts super fast. He always sprints across the octagon, and he shoots that blast double, and he always succeeds with that opening takedown. Now, will DDP be the first man to deny that early shot of Khamzat? It is very unlikely. Like, Khamzat in round one is inevitable. He's going to do what he does to everyone else against any opponent he has. Getting that early takedown, getting to the back and mauling you, and either finding a ground and pound TKO or an early submission. And we saw Robert Whittaker was not able to weather that early storm. He got tapped out very quickly, but Kamaru Usman was able to weather that early storm. So was Gilbert Burns. And I do think that Khamzat does have potential for an early finish, but Dricus Du-Plessis also has potential to survive, to weather that early storm. If he can keep that early composure and avoid making mistakes early, Dricus Du-Plessis is very tough, very resilient, and he's got good survivability skills. So he has a very good shot at surviving. And if he can do that, his chances to win increase by a lot because he starts slow, but he builds into fights. He gets better as the rounds go on. Whereas Khamzat, he cannot keep up that pace that he pushes in round 1 in rounds 2 and 3. And if he can't finish Dricus early, this might be the first time that we see Khamzat have to go in the championship rounds. And we know Dricus is good in the championship rounds. We've seen Khamzat struggle in 3-round fights against Gilbert Burns and Kamaru Usman, especially Usman. Burns slowed down in the 3rd, was more tired than Khamzat, but Usman had a very solid 3rd round. He was building, but ran out of time in a 3-rounder, whereas Dricus has a lot of time to work with in this fight, which gives him a very good chance at maybe being the one to give Khamzat Chimaev his first ever loss. But if Khamzat, if he can kill that narrative that he's only dangerous in the first, if he somehow improves his cardio or his pacing and his energy management, then I don't think Dricus Du-Plessis can beat Khamzat Chimaev. If Khamzat can do what he does best in the first over the long haul of the fight, he dominates Dricus, but we've not seen him look good like that past the first round. This fight is like a literal battle between a sprinter and a marathon runner, with Khamzat being the obvious sprinter of this fight, okay? He's better in those short distance races, okay? He's better in bursts, whereas in a long distance race, Dricus is proven to be better. He's better at playing that long game. And if this was like a 3-round fight, I would be more confident in Khamzat, winning without needing a finish. But because it's a 5-rounder, I feel like it's a tall order for Khamzat. And we've not seen him show that he can keep that same intensity in a long, drawn-out fight. Whereas Dricus, he's shown that he can, okay? He does not stop that aggression. He does not stop his output and his offense, whereas Khamzat does. So I'm going to pick Dricus Du-Plessis to win this fight. I'm going to pick him to win by a decision. I think this fight's going to look like shades of the Usman fight, where Khamzat dominates early with the grappling, but Dricus survives, but he has more time to work with. But I do think Khamzat, he is going to show that toughness. I do think his durability, his chin is going to hold up. But I just think Dricus is just going to kind of out-damage Khamzat Chimaev in this fight. I just don't think Dricus is going to give up the belt that easily. Even though Khamzat could finish him early, Dricus is Dricus, and it's just kind of hard to see that happen. So, but who knows? I could very well be wrong. Khamzat is the favorite for a reason, and I would not be shocked if he ended up winning this fight and becoming the champion. But that is it for my breakdown and prediction for the main card of UFC 319. Let me know your picks in the comment section down below. Will Dricus be able to defend his belt for a 3rd time, or are we headed into the Khamzat era and new? Like and subscribe, and peace out.